Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Glue Glue podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Quinn, and joining me today is Brush, back on with me again today. How's it going, Brush?
Yeah, not too bad. How about yourself, mate?
Not too bad. Just really looking forward to the transfer window and hoping things can get started very soon. Obviously, there's been lots of speculation, but nothing solid at the moment. So I just want to start with the tagline on the thumbnail, and that's that Dean Henderson, seemingly on his way to Newcastle, according to the likes of Samuel Luckhurst and Neil Custis in the Sun. Um, I'm don't begrudge him at all. I'm sure he wants to play first team football. He wants to be in the England squad for the Qatar World Cup. But what's a bit unusual about this is that United, according to Samuel Luckhurst, United are being offered the chance to sign Carl Darlow in a part exchange. United are also exploring the opportunity of signing Daniel Bachmann, the I think the Austrian goalkeeper at Watford, as a backup to David de Gea, to offset the transfer of Dean Henderson. So do you think it makes sense to bring in a Darlow or a Bachmann if we let Henderson go to Newcastle?
For me, I think Tom Heaton's an able deputy, so it comes as a bit of a surprise. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't say no to either of those because they will be second or third choice. Um, I know Sam Johnson from West Brom is also available, and he's one of our own. He's 29 years old though, so he perhaps thinks he's still got something to offer for someone as a first team player. But maybe that could be an option.
Yeah, maybe Sam Johnson doesn't. He's not like 36 the way Tom Heaton is. He probably still wants to play regular football at 29, and maybe he doesn't want to come and play second fiddle to David De Gea, but we don't really know at this moment. But I haven't heard that Sam Johnson link for a while now, and maybe that one's is kind of went a bit quiet. But
Yeah.
the only thing that I remember from Carl Darlow is the fact that he saved a Bruno Fernandes penalty in October 2020 in one of those behind closed doors games at St James's Park. Um, that was a huge achievement at the time. I think it was the first penalty that Fernandes had missed for United. But since then, it doesn't look like quite a massive achievement because Bruno has missed a few more since then, hasn't he?
Yeah, and we have a habit of signing goalkeepers who happen to have their best games against us. Um, yeah, the one time I saw Lee Grant play was, against us, and it was a brilliant performance he put in. Same with Tom Heaton when he was at Burnley. Um, but yeah, with Carl Darlow as well, he's been in and out of that Newcastle team, and I'm not sure if he would want to come and play second fiddle again.
No, probably not. But then again, I suppose you'd rather be United's number two than Newcastle's number two. If
Yeah,
you look at it that way. And Daniel Bachmann, I think, is actually the Austrian number one. Um,
yep. And Ben Foster's just retired. And I know they've got a young Nigerian goalkeeper coming in as well, but at the moment, I would say Backman's probably their number one.
yeah, so it's a big career decision for both men if they come in to replace Henderson. But like you say, I mean, Tom Heaton will feel aggrieved if he signed another keeper.
Yeah, I think he's good enough. I think if you just keep him as backup and promote one of the kids as third, that works out fine.
Yeah, and as well, the Sports and Talk says, why do United always want 3 or 4 goalkeepers? Do you not have any good youngsters to have as third choice? Like it is, we do just seem to have a overwhelming amount of goalkeepers. I mean, so I seen someone on Twitter, James Stratford, he's a lot of followers. He says we're going to become the first Premier League team in history to field an entire 11 of goalkeepers.
It does seem like that sometimes.
Yeah, it's I don't understand why we have to have so many.
Yeah.
Um,
Regarding Henderson, though, I do agree. I think he's at an age now where he needs first team football. So, uh, whatever way you look at it, he needs to go this summer. And like you say, with the World Cup on the horizon as well in December, he will have an eye on that.
Yeah, and according to Neil Custis, Henderson doesn't want to leave permanently. He wants to make it a loan switch to Newcastle because he still believes that one day he will be United's number one goalkeeper. Now, what do you think about
It's a no from me. I think if we are to part ways with him now, the only way a loan makes sense is if there's an obligation to buy. Um, and if we're smart about it, we would insert some kind of buyback clause.
Yeah, we need to raise money in this transfer window to increase our budget. Um,
Exactly, and he's on like 150 grand a week. It makes no sense to just loan him out.
yeah, and Newcastle could become a rival within 1 or 2 seasons. So there's no point in us giving them a goalkeeper if we're going to give them Henderson. We need to get some proper money for
Yeah,
ourselves.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you need to add to the war chest so that we can properly rebuild. Um, so we shouldn't be just, looking to do other clubs favors.
No, especially when we need to raise money and increase our transfer budget. He's
And the
one of the
other
most.
thing as well is that we don't have too many assets that can raise funds. So it's important that we actually maximize that and get these transfer fees.
Yeah, the only other player that could command a huge transfer fee who we might want to sell would be Marcus Rashford. So he probably won't be sold. So Henderson um, is definitely the most valuable asset we have out of the players that will want to move on. So um, alone makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I think we should be charging Newcastle somewhere in the region of 25, 30 million, if possible.
Yeah, absolutely. There was quotes in the papers last week of 40 million, which I thought were a bit outrageous, but I don't know. I guess that comes with the English tax. I know Ramsdale went for 30 million, Pickford around that as well. So I'd probably prize him somewhere in that region.
Yeah, so moving on now to Frankie de Jong and the latest on that potential transfer is that there's a lot of rumours coming out that um, he doesn't really want to come to United and drop out of the Champions League. And some supporters now are getting a bit fed up with that. One supporter here says, if United's manager has rang a player numerous times about joining the club, only to be told, no, I don't want him at the club. Doesn't matter how good they are, we're trying to fix an uncommitted dressing room next. So yeah, he thinks that we should just move on from this now if the player doesn't really want to come because we've got bitten with that in the past with certain players just come to United when their heart's not really in it. There. So what do you think about it?
Absolutely. If they're not sold on the project, then I guess we should move on. It's not worth it. We don't want because, like I say, with De Jong, obviously he's a quality player. We all know that, but he'll command such a high fee. He's already on big wages. I'm eager to avoid a Pogba part two kind of situation. And you'd think that the club would have spoken to the player or tested the waters to see if there was sufficient interest before agreeing a fee or anything of that sort.
I know normally in this day and age you would negotiate with the player first, find out if he wants to come, and then you would start negotiating with the club. So
Or you would at least put the feelers out and hear back from the agent to see if there's sufficient interest for you to pursue a deal.
yeah, you wouldn't embarrass yourself by putting in a bid for a player who doesn't want to join your club.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, even with the early reports, I didn't really pay too much mind. I, I didn't get the impression that Frankie wanted to leave Barcelona, to be honest. I've even heard that he said he was willing to take a pay cut to stay. Um, so obviously, in that situation, the only way he would go is if Barcelona really needed the capital. And then in that situation, being that he's 25, it makes total sense from a footballing perspective to want to go to a more ready-made team who are challenging on all fronts. So like a Man City, perhaps Bayern Munich or a PSG even.
It seems as if like Barca are trying to force him out because they want to break even this summer because of the 1.2 billion euros of debt. To bring in the likes of Rafinha, Lewandowski, and others. They want to sell their most valuable asset. And he's probably that player. And given that they've got is it Casse from AC Milan on a free, they've got uh, Gavi there, a young midfielder, and another young midfielder as well. He's
Nico,
part of he's the part of the Spanish national team setup already.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I can understand why Barcelona would think that we can replace him and we can get a lot of money for him. So
I just hope it's not one of these that drags on all summer.
yeah, yeah. Well, if he's not going to come to United, if he hasn't agreed to come to United by the middle of June, then you just have to move on to another target then. Um, so Laurie Whitwell in the Athletic this morning has said that United are negotiating with Barcelona. So the reports that came out last night that Frankie de Jong has consistently said no to Ten Hag. Um, Surely both those things can't be right, because surely United wouldn't be naive enough at this point, given the lessons that have been learned from the past, not to be negotiating with the club when a player hasn't agreed to come. That would, I mean, I would like to think that we've moved on from the Ed Woodward era, and that smacks of an Ed Woodward type deal, if you know what I mean.
Same. This stinks of Ed Woodward and Matt Judge.
Yeah, it does. So we've talked about this already on the show. According to Laura Whitwell as well, is that United are negotiating. Um, we're potentially exploring the possibility of signing N'Golo Conte. They're a bit potentially he could be available for a cut price because of his age, and but his injury record is also being considered as well. Um, do you think maybe he would be a good option? So Laurie Whit also goes on to say United are considering a move for Conte. He's expected to be made available for a reduced price due to his contract expiring in 12 months, and Thomas Tuchel's desire to freshen up Chelsea's midfield. I'm not really like, I love the player, fantastic player. He's won everything in the game. Um, but he's 31 years old. Wee bit, he's starting to carry some injuries now. He's missing chunks of the season. I don't think this would have been a fantastic move 4 or 5 years ago, but not now for me. What do you think?
Exactly the same. I mean, despite the injury concerns, he still played over 40 games this season, so that for me isn't really an issue. The issue is that he is 31. This is very short-sighted because he is a player on the decline. I know he may be better than anything we currently have, but then again, who isn't? Um, yeah, and I'm eager to avoid this situation where we strengthen our rivals. If they want to part with him, then that says it all, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah, it's another Nemanja Matic, isn't it? Um,
Yeah, yeah,
and Matic
yeah. Not
was younger.
yeah. Matic was 2 years younger as well, so yeah, I'm not really in favor of this one. The only thing I would say is obviously it's dependent on price, but I can't see them giving him away for that cheap.
Yeah, what we really should be doing now is signing the player that Chelsea will replace Conte with, not signing Conte.
Exactly. That's how you get ahead of the curve. I mean, that was the thing with the Matic deal at the time. Obviously, in hindsight, it didn't work out with Bakayoko, but on paper, it looked as if we just handed Chelsea the funds to go and rebuild their team for the next decade, because they used half of that money to go and get him, who was like 22, 23 at the time. And you're sat there thinking, wow, we've just reinvigorate Chelsea's midfield for the best part of a decade.
Oh, I don't understand what the media mean then, that he has a there's a concern over his injury record. If he's played over 40 games, surely
Yeah,
someone who's played over 40 games, there can be no real concerns there about his injuries.
yeah,
Um,
it's a bit of a confusing one. I do think he's a player on the decline though. So the fact that that Chelsea may look to get rid of him and Jorginho, or one of the two, just says it all for me. I would much rather see what Bissouma's saying at Brighton, because he's a player as well who's got 12 months left on his contract, and I hear he could be available for around say 25, 30 million.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get on to him in a wee second. But yeah, the only way a Conte transfer would make sense is if we're ready to challenge for the league this season. But this is a rebuild. We're not going to win the league till Conte's about
Exactly.
36.
That's the thing. If we were putting the final pieces of the puzzle together, then I wouldn't mind so much going and getting him. But at this moment in time, it makes no sense because we're building from the ground up, and by the time we get anywhere, he's going to be too old to function.
Yeah, I suppose the only thing with regards to Conte making 40 odd appearances is maybe a lot of those have been from the bench, haven't they? He hasn't started every game. I remember.
Yeah, no, they haven't been starts. They haven't been starts. This is in total. So yeah, he has come on here and there as well.
Yeah, he would be a useful asset, but it's not looking long term, and we're not ready to win the league at the moment. So I don't think that makes sense. I think we should be signing someone 25 or younger at this moment in time.
Most definitely, someone who can grow with the rest of this team.
Yeah, definitely. And so Darwin Nunes' transfer is going to be overseen by Jorge Mendes, according to Laurie Will. Also, he's probably got several offers on the table. For, the rumor that I read was that he doesn't really want to drop out of the Champions League, but United could be too big a proposal to turn down. Uh, United is still a massive pull for him. So that's the type of thing I want to hear. No, when we hear rumors from the Jong camp is that no, I don't want to go to United. I don't want to drop out of the Champions League. I'm happy at Barcelona. What you really want to hear is what we're getting from Nunes' camp is that don't really want to drop out of the Champions League, but United is a massive pull, and I'm still really tempted to go there.
That's nice to hear because the one thing we want to avoid is, someone coming over because of the high wages and all these other non-football related things. If they come with the wrong intentions, then I don't think it works out well. Regarding Nunes himself, though, I'm a little bit concerned because some of the fees being talked about now are just ridiculous. When we were first linked to him, it was a lot more moderate and it made sense. And now it's getting to the point where it doesn't really make sense for me, especially when you really look at the player as well. He reminds me of Calvert Lewin. There's a lot of deficiencies to his game as well. And the kind of fees being talked about are kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I wouldn't be signing him at 100 million euros or anything like that. We'd be looking to negotiate that down to maybe, I think 60 million euros would be a really good price for him, and it would represent really good business on United's part, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah, I'd be happy if it was a bit less than that, but even that would be the high end of the spectrum. Because I know we've been linked with other players as well, like Christopher and Kunku, who potentially could be a better fit for what Ten Hag needs. And if it means waiting a year, I'd rather just wait a year and do it properly instead of rushing.
Yeah, and then Congo is an interesting one because obviously that's come from Ranić. He's the one that's recommended that one. So, but it'll be totally up to Ten Hag whether he pursues that one or not. I certainly wouldn't mind him. I mean, I've seen his goal record. I've seen a bit of him in the Europa League. And his goal against Rangers at Ibrox was a world class finish. That he had the look of a classy player that night. Not that looks a lot easier when you're watching on TV than it does when you actually are on the pitch. That finish was absolutely magnificent.
Yeah,
Um,
he's off the back of an unbelievable season as well. And I hear he has got a release clause, but it comes into effect next summer. So it'll be one of those where if anybody wanted him this year, they would have to pay over the odds. So they'll probably be likely to keep him this year and sell him on next.
yeah, possibly. Yeah, but I don't think Red Bull Leipzig have a reputation for charging, humongous fees. Um, even when Liverpool have shopped there and other clubs have shopped there, they've not charged in the region of 100 million euros for players. They're normally in and around the 30 to 50 million euro mark. So I don't think Red Bull are the type of club that would absolutely rip us off. Or I could be wrong. What do you think?
No, I don't think that's the case, but I also don't think they're willing to let go of players before they need to. In a lot of circumstances, they have just waited until someone triggers the release clause. I know that's what happened with Upamecano, as well as Kanate, who looks a fantastic player at Liverpool.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I suppose we need a striker now, so we can't wait for the release clause to come into play.
Mm.
So if we have to pay a bit more, then so be it. But it seems as if Nunes is top target, and maybe someone like Kunku is second or third. But certainly both of them look like great options if we can get those deals done for reasonable prices. So just moving on now to a bit further afield than Europe. Maybe we should need to do what we need to start doing what Benfica do, Porto do, or even Man City do. Looking in the South American market, and buying players, on the cheap before they come to Europe, and we end up having to pay enormous fees for them. And one of those players that we've been link with is Enzo Fernandez at River Plate. He's a 21-year-old midfielder. Um, that would be, I wouldn't, if it's a very, very small fee in the region of 20 million euro or less, then it certainly seems like worth the risk to me. I mean, something I completely forgot about is that Man City have not only signed Erling Haaland, but I forgot that in January they actually brought in Julian Alvarez as well and loaned him back to River Plate. So they've got two strikers coming in.
Yeah. And
And
they
there's,
got Alvarez for a very cheap deal. I think it was what, about 14 million?
yeah, it was nothing. Certainly by their standards, given the money they've got to spend. So there's been, a lot of people think that this Alvarez fella could be the new Aguero. Imagine bringing
Yeah,
in the new Aguero on Holland to play, to add to their squad
for,
that won the league
for,
this season.
for the price of a Harry Maguire. It makes me want to cry when I think about it. I know with agent fees and everything else, the Haaland deal is probably closer to around 85 million, but on paper, the release clause was met at like 51. So, it's this unbelievable business.
Yeah, and they get it done quickly and efficiently and with no fuss, and the prices are always reasonable. So Enzo Fernandez, this 21 midfielder at River Plate, who seems to be highly rated. Obviously, I'm sure not many United fans have seen much of him playing over in the South American Champions League and in the Argentinian League. Do you think we should take a punt on this type of player if he comes in the region of 15 to 20 million euro?
Yeah, see, this is the thing. Like you say, it's about time we got ahead of the curve and started targeting these players nice and early before their value doubles or even triples. And with these kind of signings, with the modest outlay, there's minimal risk. And they're South American as well. So, there'll be a high demand for them, say, in the Spanish market if you were to loan them out. So even if it doesn't immediately work out, you can go send them on loan and see how they develop.
Yeah, there was minimal risk with bringing in Daniel James from the Championship because it was a very, very moderate fee, and then we ended up making a profit on him. And when do United ever make a profit on anyone in the Ed Woodward era?
Only twice can I remember us making a profit, and that was one of them. And I believe the other one was Daily Blind back to Ajax.
Interest. You never would have believed that we'd sign a player from Ajax and then sell him back for more money. But then it
Yeah,
was only signed him for 14 million or something, wasn't it?
yeah. And the deal to take him back was around 17, I think. So yeah, it's not like we made a huge profit, but
Okay, so coming back to more obvious midfield targets, if the Young deal doesn't happen, which both of us are very skeptical about,
mm,
we don't go down the path of taking risks on players from the South American leagues, and we look to a Premier League option and Ruben Neves. If we can get him for somewhere in the region of 40 million pounds or less, would you like to go for that option?
oh, for that fee, I would snap your hand off for Ruben Neves. And like I say, Premier League experience as well. He knows the league inside out. Again, my only concern with Ruben Neves is what I heard early on is that he would prefer a move to Barcelona.
Yeah, well, that might be for personal reasons rather than well, I suppose they're in the Champions League as well, but I'm sure
Yeah,
he would enjoy the climate more, being
yeah, that's
overseas.
what it is. But yeah, I mean, if we could get him for that fee, I would love it. But yeah, we'd have to wait and see. Basuma might be another one because his contract is running out next summer, and no one's really come in for him yet, and he should be available for around 25 to 30 million.
Yeah, I was watching Neves and Matinho in the game at Anfield in the last game of the season, and both of them were playing some lovely balls. Um, yeah, so they both created, uh, big chances for Wolves in that game. It could have put Liverpool to the sword, had they put them away. But Neves as a midfielder has got all the ability needed to play at United. He's just a massive upgrade on anyone we've got at the moment.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And the thing with those two players as well, I don't think they're a lone six. They don't just sit there. They're not just a proper, a destroyer type of DM. and I don't think Ten Hag really uses those anyway. So yeah, it could come in handy.
Yeah, they've got a Neves has got a bit of everything, doesn't he?
Yeah,
He can get stuck in. He can protect the back four, but he's also got a lovely passing range as well, and he can score a goal from outside the area. How
yeah,
many goals does he get from outside the area?
and
Do
not
you
just
remember
yeah, set pieces as well. Not just that. He was captain of Porto when he was 17 years old. So keeping that in mind, he's a natural leader as well. So we're lacking those.
Definitely. Hello to Africans Awake, who's starting us live. So just moving on to Marcus Rashford for the moment. Samuel Luckhurst has just tweeted to say United yet to clarify Rashford's future, but he could play through the middle in pre-season if they don't get a striker in by then. That's the last thing I want to hear. I don't want to see Rashford playing as our number nine. And that's just not really an option anymore. Even if he is back to his form, I think his best position is on the left. So I don't want to see him in the middle or on the right. And that's when he's in form. If he continues with this kind of form, I don't want to see him at the club at all, to be honest. So it seemed to be a long, long road back for him. I think his brother has been briefed in the press to say that he's going to be working hard in Miami during the close season. But I mean, you can be in the gym all you want, but it's not going to improve your footballing ability. And is it footballing ability? It just seems to have deserted him in the last year or so. So yeah, it's a long road back to him. It's a huge job on Ten Hag's hands to get him back to form again. But then even at his absolute maximum, I don't think he's a world class forward. I just think he's very good, but he's not great.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think this is make or break time for him, really. Um, Due to the amount of things that need doing in the squad, I can't see us parting ways unless we get like a really good offer, which on the back of this season I can't see happening. So it's one of those situations where I think the next 12 months are pivotal. And if we find ourselves in a similar situation to this year, then he'll definitely leave next summer.
Yeah, I suppose for those who want Rashford to leave, they'll see it as a pity that Real Madrid don't hold Rashford in the high esteem that PSG do, because he was being talked about as a replacement for Mbappe. But I don't think Real
Which
Madrid will view him as a replacement for Mbappe.
it sounds laughable now, doesn't it? It's just even to say it out loud, it's just
I know, I know. Those comparisons were being made between the two like 3 or 4 years ago, but I think that debate has been settled now. I think
yeah.
I, there's Rashford. You mean Ivan Toney's probably a better player than Rashford at the moment. To be honest with
Yeah,
you,
he's literally he's just had the season from hell, hasn't he? Um, I don't think he was great the previous 18 months, to be fair, and then this season it's just I don't know. I don't know where we go from here. We just have to hope that Eric can work something.
yeah, like we've said already on the podcast, he gets another 12 months maximum, and if he doesn't turn it
Yeah.
around, then that's it. We have to cut our
Oh,
losses.
and the thing is, well, he's got 12 months left on his contract. I know we've got a an option for a year extension. So yeah, it's crunch time.
Yeah, so United being United would probably exercise that 1 year extension to try and get a
Yep.
fee for him.
Yep.
So just moving on to Jurian Timber now, it feels as if that is going to be our first signing of the summer. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, I see that being the first signing. I think that also puts an end to Wan-Bissaka.
Definitely. Do you think that Ten Hag will use him as a right back and a centre back next season, Timber, if he signs?
Yeah, initially I think he fits in more as a right back. Obviously, he's very young. He's only 20 years old. The physicality of the Premier League is something else. The height might be an issue. I know we were linked with Jules Koundé last summer, and he's pretty short. So yeah, that's an interesting one. But I see him definitely coming in as a right back first. But he can fill in at centre back as well as DM as well if needed. So he's quite versatile.
Yeah, it's always good to have a utility man in the team. Even though there's a lot of fans who just want to see specialist players for specialist positions, but
Yeah.
it's never a bad thing to have a Phil Neville or a John O'Shea in the squad, is it?
Yeah, especially one who's young and can be molded and knows the manager and the system. So yeah, it ticks all the boxes for me. That one.
Yeah, I think the fact that he's used to working with Ten Hag is the most important point here.
Yeah.
So if he's moved around the team, right back, centre back, or centre midfield, it doesn't bother me because he's not coming to, a completely new coach and a new environment. He's going to be playing under the same coach and the same style of play, the same philosophy. So it's not going to be exactly the same as Ajax, but there's going to be a lot of similarities there for him. So I don't mind him, signing a player who can play multiple positions. And yeah, it's hard to know really what Ten Hag's going to do in the first season of Timber if he signs, but yeah, it would make sense to kind of break him into the Premier League to play him at right back rather than the pressure of playing at centre back for United, which
Yeah.
seems to be too much pressure for just about everybody at the moment, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's going to be a tough job for whoever comes in if we do indeed get a centre half. Because who's going to be their partner? We don't have one that's just cemented down.
Yeah, and speaking of the centre backs, T- I understand that Ten Hag likes to play a high line. That surely means that Harry Maguire is not going to be first choice. What do you
Yes,
think?
yeah, same. And the fact that he likes defenders who are really comfortable on the ball. Like, a lot of the centre backs he uses are players who can also play DM because he likes them so far up the pitch and keep their positions when they lose possession. So that's also of concern.
Yeah, it is my feeling that um, Varane will obviously be first choice if he's available, but interesting to see who else who puts alongside him. Could it be Timber? Could it be Lindelof? Who will it? Or would it be Maguire? Who will it be?
Out of the players that we currently have, I would say that Lindelof is probably most suited to his style.
Yeah. Yeah. Lindelof is probably quicker than Maguire, but he's not the paciest player either, is he?
No, no, and he just lacks aggression for the Premier League for me.
I know he's too passive, and nothing. Another thing that really irritates me. Lindelof does it, and some other players do it as well. When he's trying to block a shot or a cross, he puts his hands behind his back, and I understand why he's doing it, but he, it's a very unnatural position to put your body in, and he frustrated me in that Brighton game, and Ruud Hullet had a real go at him for it when he tried to block a shot with his legs wide open, and the
Yeah,
ball just went to the bottom corner along the grass. I mean, what was he doing there? I
yeah,
don't know. Lindelof is he's just not top quality. I mean, he's a 6 out of 10 defender at best.
yeah. He's a decent squad rotation option, but he's not who you'd want to rely on.
No, he's not. I think ideally we want to sign a centre back who's going to play 38 games because we know Varane
Yeah,
is going to pick up injuries during the season.
yeah. That's the trouble, isn't it? You can't really plan around Varane. I think he missed something like what 17 Premier League games.
Yeah, would maybe Mengi if he impresses Ten Hag on the preseason tour, maybe he could become part of the first team picture.
Yeah, perhaps. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for some of our young players. Obviously, because we're not going to get everything we need from the transfer window itself. So there will be an emphasis on some of the younger players coming through. And yeah, I would definitely expect them to get blooded in and get a chance under Ten Hag.
Yeah, knowing Ten Hag and his reputation for blooding young players and bringing young players from the youth team into the first team picture and not being afraid to play teenagers in the first team. I reckon that one of Hannibal, Garner, Mengi, Alvaro Fernandez, I think one of them will be in the first 11 next season. That's just the hunch that I have. What do you think?
Yeah, same here. I would say probably Hannibal's the most likely, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm also keeping my eye on Ahmad, depending on that right hand side situation. Maybe we would he'll feel that Elanga needs some competition. There's not too many other options there. We don't know what's happening with our number 11. So there's a lot of uncertainties.
What do you
Um,
think? What do you think about speaking of players who play on the right? Is Ziyech, who Chelsea put up for sale and has also played with Ten Hag at Ajax. I know he's 29 now. Do you think he could be an option?
Yeah, see, I would prefer he goes back to Ajax and then we snap up Anthony
Yeah,
in an ideal world. Obviously, I think this is another one of those where reporters are making connections just based on Eric's history with the player. Yeah, he is getting on, and what kind of fee would Chelsea be looking to recoup for him? And yeah, I would much rather a younger target, someone who can come in and grow along with the rest of the young team that we hopefully put together.
yeah, I totally agree with you on that. But I've watched ZS, in the last couple of seasons, and he has an absolute wand of left foot. He just that there just seduces me, to be honest. Just thinking about him doing that at Old Trafford.
Yeah, it's the consistency that's the issue because obviously there was a player there, and you see glimpses of it, and you think, "Wow."
Yeah. I don't think United will go down that road, but we'll wait and see. And another thing I want to talk about is Steve McLaren, who's coming back to be a coach again at United after 21 years away. And obviously he was a coach during probably the most successful period in their history. Um, so I've been listening to the McLaren Performance podcast, which he does with his son, and he's done an episode since he got the job at United. And he was very diplomatic on the podcast about the job at head. But he wasn't, obviously wasn't going to say anything about any individuals. Um, but he is under no illusions that it's a huge job for Ten Hag himself and Mitchell. But what's perhaps more interesting is his appearance on Talksport on the 7th of March after the 4-1 defeat at the Etihad. He said that during that interview that 5 or 6 United players are not fit to wear the shirt. That's pretty scathing. And I really would love to know who he was talking about there. So someone who's been that critical of United is now going to be part of the part of the coaching setup. So that'll certainly spice things up.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you speak with a certain freedom, don't you, when you're not attached to the club. So now I think you'll see a slightly different stance where he's a bit more pragmatic and diplomatic with what he says. But yeah, a lot of players are leaving, so it's a chance to start fresh. Um, I question exactly how much involvement he will have. Like obviously Mitchell van Gaag has come in, and he'll be the number two. I think McLaren more so is just there to just facilitate that transition and help Eric settle in because they know each other very well from their time at FC 20. And if needed, Steve can also speak to Eric with a Dutch accent.
Yeah. Yeah, I think McLaren is very much going to be the number three in terms of the coaching setup. Potentially, he could be a bridge between Ten Hag and the players, and a bridge between Ten Hag and John Merto. Because he's experienced in various roles, McLaren, and he's worked with Ten Hag before. It could be a case of the good cop, bad cop routine. Ten Hag potentially could be quite distant with the players. It was the type of manager I think we need because we've seen the likes of Ollie being too friendly with the players, and then McLaren could be the kind of the someone who's a bit closer to the players, someone who can you know provide a bridge between Ten Hag and the players. So yeah, I do think it's good for the actual manager to have some kind of distance between himself and the players. I don't think he should get too friendly with them the way Solskjaer was. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think that's his style of management anyway. I don't think he'll be trying to put his arm around players, trying to be their friend. Um, and I like the early impression I've got from his press conference. It was such a stark contrast to when, say, someone like a David Moyes walked in, who looked as if he had found the golden ticket to the chocolate factory. It was like he'd just won the lotto and he was pinching himself and couldn't quite believe he had gotten there. Whereas Eric kind of commanded the room, and it's nice to see.
Yeah, he looked quite stern, didn't he? And he was given quite short answers to questions. I love the answer he gave when one of the journalists asked him, "Do you want to keep Ronaldo?" He said, "Of course." And then the journalist followed that up by saying, "What will Ronaldo's role be in your team?" And he said, "Goals," and that was it. And he also loved going around meeting supporters outside the ground, and then he was meeting a lot of the club staff in the cafe and the megastore and stuff.
Yeah,
So
that was lovely to see.
yeah, so he certainly made a great impression. But this is the strongest he'll ever be, and this is the kind of the honeymoon period. This is when the board will have probably have the most belief in him until he wins the Premier League. So this is the time now. If he wants to make major changes to the squad, he needs to demand that now, in terms of incomings and outgoings, because he'll never be in a stronger position, will he?
Absolutely. And I would like to think that, he would have sorted these things out before he arrived, because he would have made certain demands. So yeah, I'd like to think that we are out of the circle, the cycle that we were in before.
Yeah, and I just want to mention the fact that Lee Grant has left the club. Have you got over that yet? I haven't quite got over that myself.
He's headed to Ipswich Town, isn't he? Yes. What a loss! What a loss that is.
It's just devastating, all those appearances that he made as our goalkeeper. Um, his biggest contribution was probably holding up the board as the fourth official in one of those lockdown games.
Yeah. Funny enough, I did listen to him when he made an appearance on the United podcast. It's probably longer than minutes played for us on the field. That podcast. Um, yeah.
Did he have anything interesting to say on that
Do you know
podcast?
what? He's a lovely guy. I can't lie. Yeah, I was just I'm happy for him. What else can you say, really? Like, it's fantastic work if you can get it. He's, in his time here, he's managed to get qualified, get his badges. It's almost a shame that we haven't utilized him. He's gone off to Ipswich now.
Yeah, he's obviously developed a friendship with Kieran McKenna. That's probably why
Yeah.
he's went to Ipswich. I just don't understand. I'm sure he's a lovely guy, but I don't understand what he was doing at the club in the first place. What was the point of that signing?
Neither do I. It was so random.
I mean, that was the summer when Mourinho got us to second place, albeit quite a distance behind City, and we thought we were going to make a few additions to kick on and challenge for the title. And what we
I think
done was bring in Fred Dallo and Lee Grant.
Yeah, I think Jose expected us to kick on and make some more signings as well, but by that stage, the board had stopped backing him in the way that he wanted.
Yeah, they didn't like him demanding players that were around the 30 mark. They wanted to
Yeah,
sign players with
yeah, because I
resale
remember
value.
he wanted Ivan Perisic, he demanded Jerome Boateng, and yeah, the board didn't want to play
Was
ball.
this was his top target Toby Alderweireld from Tottenham, I think, and they wouldn't. The club just
Yeah,
wouldn't buy him.
yeah,
Um,
and this is the thing, and this is where the lack of planning and structure comes into play, because if you are getting a Jose Mourinho in, you should know the profile of manager he is.
yeah,
On average, he spends 3 seasons at a club. The football on show will be dreadful to watch, but with the players he likes will be in their late 20s to even early 30s, maybe. They'll be on big wages, but he likes them towards their peak.
yeah,
But the caveat to all of that is if you buy into that, with that comes success.
yeah.
You can't go halfway in on it and then stop. You either go all the way in or you don't get that manager in the first place.
And a manager that he has a lot of similarities with is Antonio Conte. He's at Tottenham currently, and surprise, surprise, Tottenham's next signing looks like it's going to be Ivan Perisic. Um, so a very experienced player coming in there. But if you're going to appoint Conte and Mourinho, you need to give them what they want, and that seems like what Tottenham are going to do. They're going to bring in Perisic and give him what he wants.
Exactly. And then the one key difference as well, with Tottenham and Conte, is that their director of football, Paratici, is someone that Conte has a very good relationship with. They work together at Juventus as well. And, you can tell by the signings that they're making, it's a joint effort. And I would worry about Tottenham now. I don't see Harry Kane leaving. They've got Champions League football. That front three of Kulusevski, Son, and Kane looks set. If they can get some decent fullbacks and make perhaps a centre half in, that team is going to be completely transformed.
Yeah, somebody was asking on Twitter last night, if you could name a player from any point in history that that went to a rival club that you wish United should have signed? I didn't want to pick too many obvious ones like Dennis Bergkamp or something like that. I went for Son Heung-min. And I
Yeah.
remember being at Old Trafford watching him play for Bayer Leverkusen against United, and
Mm.
obviously played in the away leg as well against them. He was fantastic. Was our scout sleeping that night? Why did
He
we
was
miss
the
out on this player?
player. There were so many opportunities. He was a player when he was at HSV Hamburg. He was making noise, and then when he was at Leverkusen as well, I couldn't believe nobody had snapped him up. Absolutely, yeah, missed opportunity there. When I think of players that we missed out on, though, Michael Essien is the one that hurts me.
Oh yeah, what a fabulous footballer he was in his peak
Yeah,
for
and
Chelsea.
we were in for him as well, but then obviously Chelsea. That's when they really came into money and they just outbidded us. And yeah,
Do you know that absolute cracker that Essien scored against Arsenal at Stamford Bridge, and Mourinho was
Mhm.
doing that provocative celebration along the touchline, in the direction of Wenger. Um, Another thing I remember from Essien is, for some strange reason, was it Avram Grant moved him to right back, and he played directly against Ronaldo in the Champions League final. And if you remember, Ronaldo's headed goal from that Wes Brown cross was he totally outjumped Essien. Essien is a midfielder. There's no way he should be playing against Ronaldo at right back. That was a strange one, wasn't
Yeah, yeah, craziness. But I mean, I suppose you do crazy things when you reach a Champions League final.
it?
Whatever it takes to get the job done, eh?
Although I'm more than happy that Essien was playing right back that day. But I don't think Paulo Ferreira or anyone would have been able to handle Ronaldo. That leap from Ronaldo, he must have leaped like
No,
2 feet in the air there to head that into the corner.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I think if Ronaldo was going to leave the club this summer, we would know by now. But there's been no noises in that direction whatsoever. So it looks really positive, doesn't it?
yeah. I don't think there's a risk of him leaving. Where does he go? Even apart from maybe like a romantic return to Sporting Lisbon, in which he'd have to take a huge pay cut. I can't see him going anywhere else.
Yeah, I don't think he's ready to drop down to the Portuguese league at the moment. Maybe in two
Yeah,
years' time.
yeah, and also, as much as people harp on about how he cares about individual accolades, he loves this club. He wouldn't want to let himself down and leave now, on the back of that horrendous season. He'll have a point to prove. He'll be looking at that Europa League thinking, you know what, I can be the guy that leads this team back into the Champions League, perhaps by winning it. Like, that's the mentality of the man.
Yeah, and he'll believe that he can fire United to the Premier League title next season, even though no one else believes that. But he'll believe it
Yeah,
because that's the confidence that he
yeah.
has.
Listen, we've just seen Zlatan lead AC Milan to a league title in 11 years, and he's what, 40 going on 41. I don't know if you heard the clip that released where he gave a little team speech at the end in the Milan locker room, but it was amazing to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was in his twilight years when he was at United at 34, and he's still playing.
Yeah, yeah. So it just goes to show what mentality can achieve sometimes.
Yeah, and he had that serious injury at United as well.
Yep,
So
yep.
to come back from that is remarkable and still be playing
Yeah,
6 years
yeah.
later.
He went to LA Galaxy in the MLS. We thought, all right, that's his, final hurrah. He did his thing there. He was unbelievable over there. And then to come back to Europe as well and still show that he's got the qualities, it's incredible.
Well, it could inspire Ronaldo to keep going in the Premier League until he's 40, 41.
Listen, if you use him sparingly, then I don't see why not. Because we have to remember that this is a guy who grew up watching Giggs and how he adapted his game. And I know Ronaldo always spoke about it, even during his first spell when we had him. He used to look at Giggs and the way he looked after his body and how he changed his game well into his 30s. So yeah, I'm sure he would have picked things up, and he would certainly like to. He'll be 38 by the end of next season.
Yeah, he will be. But I do think it is absolutely imperative that we have a striker below the 25 bracket.
Absolutely. He cannot be the main man leading the line week in, week out. He needs help.
Yeah, and it will come a point where he'll have to accept that himself. Despite his super ego, he'll have to accept the fact that he'll have to share the role with a younger striker because he can't play, and there's no way he's going to play all the Europa League games and all the Premier League games. It's just not going
Oh,
to happen.
absolutely not. I mean, yeah, even in the Premier League games, I think we have to use him sparingly. I mean, if we look at the 18 goals that he scored this season, I think they've come in about 10 games.
But it does not slightly concern you when you see some of his behaviour, like when he's being subbed at Brentford. Does that not tell us that he's going to struggle to share the role with another player?
Not really. That's just him. That's just how he reacts. We know how he operates. Um, that's just him. Apart from the media scrutiny on it, I wouldn't pay it too much mind.
Yeah, and my hunch is that Ten Hag is going to make him the captain. What do you think?
I mean, we're seriously lacking captaincy options. For me, it would be De Gea um, over Ronaldo, only because for me, I think with Ronaldo, you get the same with or without the armband. He only knows how to be one way, and he is a leader naturally on and off the field. So I would give it to De Gea. I like how De Gea has been conducting himself in interviews as well of late, the way he's speaking. So I would give it to him. Especially, I like to go off seniority as well. And I don't necessarily believe that, it has to be the captaincy needs to be with the player who's the loudest, because there is that, isn't there, where people think that you need to be the one who's always barking orders and shouting. I don't think you need to be the most vocal. There are other ways to lead.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against De Gea being the captain, but I do have a certain. I don't particularly like goalkeepers being captains because they're not involved in the play.
Mm,
Only when the ball is kind of in their penalty area are they really involved. They're not. I prefer if I could choose, I would rather the captain be a centre midfielder like Roy Keane, obviously. But yeah, I won't disagree with De Gea or Ronaldo being the captain.
yeah,
The
yeah. I
one
mean,
thing,
in an ideal world, yeah, I like that as well. I like someone who's either a commanding midfielder or a centre back, ideally, to be a captain. But we don't really have those.
no, and Bruno Fernandez is just not captain material for me. What do you think?
Yeah, no, he's too petulant. He loses his cool way too soon. He's 27 years old now as well, so you'd think he would, have better control over himself. And I know some people raise to the occasion, and they do mature when they get the armband. I know that was certainly the case with David Beckham back in the day, with England, and that was a fantastic transformation to see because I was one of those that had a raised eyebrow when he was given that captaincy, but I don't see that in Bruno Fernandez.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind our players or the captain, you know, remonstrating with the referee the odd time when something
Yeah.
doesn't go our way. But Bruno Fernandes, from minute 1 to minute 90, he's yapping at the referee, and I just think he needs to concentrate on the game more and never mind about the officials. It's just annoying.
Exactly. And his head seems to go as well, and it drops, and his performance is affected as well when things aren't going right. And that's not what we need in our captain. We need someone who's going to stay calm and keep it professional, and can still put in a performance.
Yeah, and he doesn't realize when you have to just keep it simple, keep hold of the ball. He always has to go for the Hollywood ball.
Exactly. And his game would improve so much if he stopped that.
Yeah, so I just don't think he's captain material. And when he's constantly in the referee's ear, it gives off the impression that he's looking for an excuse, that he's blaming the officials for things going wrong. When really, it's not the officials' fault that things are going wrong for United. It's the players' fault, isn't it?
Mm,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, I'm just a bit peed off with him the way he's behaved this season and the petulant behavior, and I just
Yeah.
don't think he should be made captain. So it's really between Ronaldo and De Gea, isn't it? Unless he
Yeah.
goes for a completely surprising option, like I don't know, Varane or someone like that. I
See,
just
if Iran was fully fit and he could complete 38 games, I would throw his hat in the ring. But at the moment, for me, it's a no on Varane.
we know for a fact that he's probably only going to play um, 25 out of the 38 games maximum, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. Oh, and one other thing I want to touch on as well. I know Forest are playing in the playoffs. If they make it to the Premier League, would you bring Ghana back?
Yeah. Well, for his own career,
Yeah.
it would probably be better that he plays an entire 38 games at
Hmm.
Forest. Obviously, he's only going to be a squad player at United, probably. But for our own, selfish point of view, be for him to be part of United squad next season, no matter what happens in the playoff final. So me personally, I want to be part of United's squad next season. But for his own career, it'd probably be better if he plays another season in the Premier League with Forest.
Yeah. Yeah. See, for me with that, if they get to the Premier League, I would prefer he stays there because I just, because I think that's invaluable to come get 38 games to be a starter in the Premier League. I think it will do wonders for him and probably benefit us as well in future. We'll get a really good look at how he settles into the league and what he can offer.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from, but some supporters would be like, he's nearly 22 now. We want to get him into the United team. We don't want to wait around any longer. And he himself would probably prefer to be part of United's first team picture. Next season, he'll have that belief in himself. But yeah, I think yeah, he'll some there'll be a divide about this. Won't there? Some fans will think it'll be better for him to play 38 games for Forest, and other people will say, well, we need midfield options. Let's get him into our team now.
Yeah, I just worry. I just worry about throwing him into the deep end at United because obviously, no matter who you are, just when you wear that crest, it comes with certain expectations, and I don't know if our lot will be patient enough with him, and he will be in and out of the team as well, like you say. So I think ideally we'll do some decent shopping this summer, and we can afford to let James stay there for a year if they make it to the Premier League. But if not, then yeah, I'm certainly not going to complain if he comes in. Then yeah.
Yeah, I think he'll go on the tour, and then Ten Hag will make a decision after
Mm.
that. I think. So some very interesting. Well, I say interesting, but to a degree, there are interesting games in the preseason with against Villa, Liverpool, and Atletico Madrid. Of course, they're just going to be you know training exercises. The result doesn't really matter. It's all about gaining fitness and getting the manager getting a look at all the players.
Yeah,
Um,
that's all it is really. It's less about the actual results. We're just looking to see. Well, obviously they're looking to get the fitness up, but we're just looking for little inklings, aren't we, to see who's in the picture, to see what youngsters get bedded in. Yeah, and if we can notice anything consistent in the style, formations.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get a close look at what Ten Hag's looking from his team and how he wants to play. For those people who don't watch Ajax that closely, we'll
Mm,
get a. But then it's going to be a lot of. We're not going to see the them perfecting Ten Hag's style of play in the first couple of preseason games. That's obviously going to take time for them to get used to that, isn't it?
yeah, this is the other thing I'm intrigued about as well because I'm sure a lot of us have gone and looked at and studied Ajax to the best of our ability to see how he done there. But obviously, the Premier League is totally different, and I do wonder if he's going to adapt his style and make some changes. So it might not be, the mission not might be to recreate what he did at Ajax. It might change slightly.
Yeah, it might do. I'm sure the core principles will be the same, but he might make a
Yeah,
few tweaks. Um, yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if he made a few changes to his approach. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. Um, I will be keeping an eye on the preseason games, but I don't really care about the results. It's all about
yeah.
getting a look at the players and seeing what kind of style Ten Hag is going to use at United, because we all remember Louis Van Gaal winning 5 out of 5 preseason games, and look how that turned out.
Again, it goes back to our structure, doesn't it? Because even with Van Gaal, you need to understand that with these football philosophy men, it takes quite a while for them to implement their philosophy. And there was a bit of impatience, and it was by the time that he looked like he was actually getting somewhere that he got the chop.
Yeah, I think fans were just bored of the 1-0s and the 0-0s, and
Yeah.
it was very exciting at the start. Actually,
Mm.
when those games where we were scoring lots of goals, when we lost 5-3 to Leicester, he reverted back to a more conservative approach, didn't he? And then it got very
Yeah.
very boring.
That game, that gives me nightmares. That game, we were 3-1 up, weren't we? We
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Lambert says why keeper is the focus is just ridiculous. Yeah, we talked about that earlier. The way United and they always want to have 4 or 5 keepers at the club. It's just absurd. You need a first choice, a backup, and then maybe a younger guy as the third
yeah,
choice. It doesn't
yeah,
need to be
that's all
any
you
more than
need.
that.
That's all you need.
Yeah. So we're still optimistic about the summer transfer window at the moment. We're desperate for the first signing and the first departures, apart from the players who've left already.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's one of the things I'm excited about. Actually, not just the arrivals, but the departures. That's what I want to wake up to.
yeah. Um, if I'm Oh, I think Wan-Bissaka, Bailly, Jones, Henderson, those type of players will go.
Yeah.
But if it was my choice, I would also add Rashford and Maguire to that list. But I'm not getting too
Mm.
greedy now.
Yeah. See, Rashford, I don't know. I think just age-wise, and because we are so devout of other forward players, is the only reason I would say that he gets another year. Maguire, ideally, in an ideal world, I would sell him, but I can, I can see him maybe just becoming a rotation option.
Yeah, probably. Well, hope that's all he is.
Yeah.
So Lambert says Villa and Dortmund out there hoovering up the bargains. We'll end up linked with Dembele at Barca and Panic Pies. Yeah, I mean Dembele. We've been linked with him quite a few times. He's injury prone, isn't he? And that's what scares me about him.
So, I mean, that was definitely what scared me in January, that and the high wage demands. But since January, he has been a bit of a revelation over there. He's got 11 assists. He's done really well. I'm actually surprised that he hasn't, signed on. I'm sure they'll work something out. I'll be surprised if he moves on.
So in the final 6 months of his deal, and when he could potentially when he's paying for a contract, basically he
He's
turned
turned it
in,
on.
yeah, like Adebayor.
It reminds me of Theo Walcott as well.
yeah, he would turn into Messi in the final 6 months
Yeah,
of his
yeah, he would
contract.
get absolutely unbelievable every time a contract renegotiation came up. The thing with Dembele, he is still only 24 years old, which is hard to believe. And there is a real player there. So it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but, dependent on wages and things.
Yeah, but like you say, I would probably prefer to go for Anthony from Ajax
Yeah,
if I had a choice in
yeah,
that position.
yeah, he would be the one for me. Just because obviously because Eric knows him, he's the exact same age as Sancho as well. So when we look back to when we had like Rooney and Ronaldo, the way that connection built up, it would be so amazing to get two players of the same age and just give them a year or two to just really understand each other.
Yeah, that would be ideal. Okay, we'll go ahead and leave it there. If everyone could subscribe to the podcast, then follow us on the Twitter at United underscore podcast underscore and on Instagram and Facebook at Glory Glory Podcast. And this will be the last podcast for a couple of weeks now as I'm away on holiday. So hopefully by the time I'm doing another show, we've brought in 1 or 2 players, Brush.
Yes, and hopefully Carlo Ancelotti would have lifted another Champions League.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I will be celebrating Real Madrid's victory tonight for days to come.
Touch wood, touch wood. I hope so. It's just a very stressful day here, Carl.
Yeah, touch wood. It's every May now. It's stressful, isn't it? And
Yeah, yeah.
because City and Liverpool are within a chance of winning these big honors, and we're nowhere near it. We're in a position to do nothing about it, and we're relying on other teams to do us a favor. It's shocking, isn't it?
Exactly. And teams that we used to consider ourselves rivals with, I'm not fond of Madrid, but it's the lesser of the two evils.
Yeah, definitely. Wouldn't mind another Gareth Bale scissor kick tonight in the second half.
Yeah, yeah. Or for Eden Hazard to finally turn up and justify his price tag.
Yeah, that would be a miracle.
Yeah, that's going to go down as one of the worst transfers ever, hasn't it? He's
Yeah,
so bad for Madrid.
that and Harry Maguire. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'll see you in a couple of weeks then, Brush.
Yeah. Take care.